This is the story of how I turned $997 into over 10 million in 3 years. If you're new to the channel, my name is Ravi Abuvala, founder of ScalingWithSystems.com, where we build profitable client acquisition systems for our clients. And just a measly 3 years ago, I didn't do any of this. Actually, I dropped out of law school and I was working at an Italian restaurant serving breadsticks for less than $2,000 a month. But then I made a $997 investment, and just a few years later, I made over a 1,000,000% return on that investment. And this video is going to break down exactly what that investment is and how I did it. So the year is 2019, and I was originally planning on going to law school, except for my plans got kind of detoured a little bit when my dad got diagnosed with stage 4 lung cancer. And when that happened, I had to move in with him, and I was actually taking him to chemo and radiation 5 days a week while I studied for the LSAT, which is the law school admission test. And that was one of the best things to ever happen to me. And this is kind of the first lesson I want to give you in this video, is that sometimes everything happens for a reason. And at the moment, I thought it was one of the worst things in the world that could happen for me. I was distracted from studying for law school, and at the same time, I'm taking care of my dad, who could potentially die from this stage 4 lung cancer. However, that caused me to pump the brakes on what essentially society and the world wanted me to do. And instead of going, I need to go to school, then to law school, and then get a law job as soon as possible, it allowed me to breathe a little bit and do a little bit of research on my own as far as, is law school even what I wanted to do in the first place? And this was enhanced by the fact that my dad had lung cancer and he was on his deathbed virtually. And during that time, I realized, wow, actually life is not as guaranteed as you once thought. And if life's not guaranteed, then why not do what you love today instead of what my family and parents were telling me, which is first go to law school, then you can do what you want to do later on. So where does this $997 investment come in? Well, at the same time period that I'm kind of having a little bit of doubts about law school, I ended up getting hit by an ad by an online guru. And this online guru was promising me I could start a social media marketing agency and make $10,000 a month from my computer and anybody could learn it. And of course, as somebody who was literally about to go to law school for 3 years, go $200,000 in debt, only to make, $100,000 per year working 70 hours a week, this was pretty appealing. So I watched an online webinar, I saw everything that happened, and I didn't buy it right away because I was, like a lot of you probably, a little skeptical as far as how real this opportunity actually was. Now, at the same time that I'm doing this research online, I actually did end up taking my law school admission tests, and I scored in the top 10% of test takers in the nation, which means I had essentially my pick of the litter for any law school I wanted to do. And my family and friends, everybody's thinking, cool, this guy's gonna go to law school at this point. And I almost regret doing that because that even sent me further down the path of making the decision, do I want to go to law school or do I want to pursue this new opportunity? Which is when I went back to that person's webinar, this online video, and I literally screenshotted every single testimonial that guy had. And some of them were just first names, some of them were just photos. And I scoured the internet online for every single person that person was talking about, that guru was talking about, had success. And Facebook, Instagram, LinkedIn, emails, I would message every one of them. I think I ended up messaging 50 to 80 people. And I said, hey, is this real? Is this legitimate? I'm thinking about investing into this program. Did you actually get the results that you wanted? Because I wanted to make sure they weren't fake testimonials, which is funny when I hear some people say that about my programs and my company, oh, those testimonials are fake. It blows my mind that someone would say that. But then I go back to old Ravi and the mindset that I was in there, which was a mindset of scarcity and a mindset of nobody around me is doing this, so there's no way that this is a reality. And to my absolute surprise, every single one of those people responded, and every single one of those people said that the testimonials were correct. Some of them were even hopping on calls with me and showing me their Stripe account and showing me what they did on a day-to-day basis and how they built this business with no previous experience. And to be honest with you, that was all of the validity and proof that I needed. And the cool part about it was that my entire life, I had never known that this kind of world existed. I never knew what was possible. And this was even really kind of before the whole online guru and online e-learning platform, craze started. So it was before most of the world even knew this stuff existed. And I just took a leap of faith and I said, cool, I can spend $997 and my potential is that I could live the life of my dreams, make, for me at the time was $100,000 a year from my computer doing anything I wanted, or I could say yes to law school, start my first semester, at which point I'd be $50,000 in debt for the law school that I was going to go to, and I couldn't pull out, then graduate, have $200,000 in debt, and work the rest of my life as a lawyer. And maybe I would have enjoyed it, maybe I wouldn't have enjoyed it. But that was the second lesson I want to give you, was my risk reward profile. I realized, okay, I could always come back to law school if I wanted to, but if I put this $997 investment in today, when I don't have a car payment, I didn't have a girlfriend, I really didn't even have any friends because I fell off the face of the earth when I was taking care of my dad, I knew I could do this, and the only downside would be $997 loss, which maybe if you're watching that video, maybe it's a lot of money, maybe it's not a lot of money. For me at the time, it was a considerable amount of money because I wasn't working. I didn't work in college because I was a student, and I didn't work after I graduated because I was taking care of my dad. So I was $10,000 in debt when I put the $997 on my credit card. And when I got access to this course, I have to tell you, immediately I was disappointed. Yeah, actually it was insanely underwhelming. The modules inside of there weren't even taught by the guru themselves. They had a bunch of other people teach inside of it. Some of them couldn't even speak correctly. Their grammar was terrible. And I was thinking, oh my God, I just lost $997. But this is the next lesson that I have for you, and is that I knew, even back then, before I knew what extreme ownership was, I knew that I had to take ownership for this. And I knew that if other people had gone through this exact same program and they had attributed their success to it, I knew that I could do the same thing. So instead of immediately going, oh, I want my money back, this isn't going to work out, I just said, okay, what can I make out of this? How can I get my return on investment? And that's the lesson for you, is that every single thing, any investment you make, has a lesson inside of it. Whether the lesson is don't believe something that's too good to be true, or the lesson is, hey, maybe it's not that great at first sight, but if you're willing to put in the work, you can make it happen, which is exactly what happened to me. I consumed this program like nobody's business. And I still remember we had an Italian restaurant that I worked at, and literally we opened at 5 o'clock, and the first person didn't come in until 6:30 typically. So from 5 to 6:30, everybody else was on their phone, everybody else was joking, and I was sitting there with my laptop in a chair in the very back by myself with AirPods in, watching this course and understanding and consuming it. And people would be making fun of me as they were walking by, like, why are you watching this? Why are you doing this? And I just stayed focused on what I was doing. And that eventually led the opportunity, which became my first client. So it was a social media marketing agency, and I was speaking to a girl at this time, and I'm at dinner with this girlfriend, not this girlfriend, but this girl and her family. And her dad is a plastic surgeon, and he mentions, hey honey, I'm looking to increase my social media presence online. Do you know anybody that does social media marketing or social media management? And it was like the gods rained down from above and gave me an opportunity here to actually take advantage of this. And she goes, let me think about it. And I said, I could do it for you. And he goes, you can? And I still remember the girl I was talking to goes, you can? Because nobody knew that I was doing this. Everyone still thought that I was going to go to law school because I was so afraid of telling anybody of the change that I made until I was quote unquote successful, which is another lesson for another time. And very long story short, that plastic surgeon told me to come into his office the next day with a proposal, and I stayed up all night long writing out a 22-page proposal of every single thing that I was going to do for this client. And I go into his office, I sit down at his office, I hand him the proposal, I said, look, this is what I'm going to do for you. He goes, look, I've heard enough. Yeah, here's $2,000, here's the check, and you can get started tomorrow. He didn't even open the first page of the proposal. I literally had just started talking maybe 5 to 10 words, and he said, yep, that's good enough to me. Let's get started. And I was blown away. And I remember taking that $2,000 check. I drove straight to the bank and I cashed it immediately to make sure that it was real. $2,000 hit my bank account. Only 2 months ago, I put $997 into a program. And 2 months later, I got $2,000 back out. And that was when the light bulb hit me. And I said, okay, Ravi, right now, you literally don't know what you're doing. And I didn't even know what I was doing for this plastic surgeon. I just was like, I'm going to figure this out after he pays me money. So I didn't even know what I was doing. I didn't even have a great sales pitch. I didn't even, know how to actually fulfill what I promised that person. But I knew that I'd be able to figure it out, and this guy just paid me. So imagine if I invested more time and more energy and more money into this, what could come from it? And that's exactly what I did. Just about 6 months later, I was doing $100,000 a month in my social media marketing agency. And now 2 years after that, we're doing almost $1 million a month in my other company that stemmed from that original plastic surgeon client, which by the way, was with me for 8 months after I signed him because I was learning and investing and doing more and more for him every single month. So that was exactly how I changed $997 into over $10 million in just a few years. It was a 1,000,000% return. And the biggest lessons that you're supposed to learn here is that, things aren't as bad as they look when you first do it. Take extreme ownership for everything you do. Understand your risk portfolio. So what is the risk versus reward of something? And if all those things look good, sometimes you just got to say, screw it, let me try this thing out. All of these other people are doing it. It can't be wrong. And I'm not saying that scam artists don't exist out there. And I'm not saying that, if you give money to somebody else, they're not going to run away with it. So make sure you do your due diligence. But we are just programmed as a society to come at something that quote unquote seems too good to be true. But I have made this same transformation happen in hundreds of my clients, and I've had it happen to myself as well. So if you think you're remotely similar to me or thousands of people or hundreds of thousands of people out in the world, why can't you do the exact same thing? So hopefully that was valuable to you. I just figured as I was going back at the beginning of the year, every year, I look at my journal and I look at where I was last year on the first of the year, where was the year before that, what was I writing about, what was my pain points, did I have an abundance mindset, did I have a scarcity mindset, and I've been writing in my journal for over 5 years, and it is stark the difference between, before I made that change and I started investing in myself to where I am today. And just to answer the question, no, the $997 course wasn't the only thing I bought. I put $997 in and I got $2,000 out in just a few months. So then I just kept on investing into more programs, more coaches, more masterminds. Now my investments include team members, advertisements. So once you understand a feedback loop of giving your money to something and then giving you money back, especially to me, when you can bet on yourself, that's something that I would recommend doing if you do the research. Also, if you're thinking of starting a business this year, I actually just did another YouTube video I'll throw on the screen for you right here as far as the 5 best business ideas that I would start if I had to restart today, and some of them may surprise you. So make sure you click that video, hit subscribe, and I'll see you guys in the next video.